Everybody, this is Curtis Pope from Watch Curtis Code. I just recently had my first episode of Watch Curtis Code, and in that episode, we start to code up a small app for use at Now, if you haven't had a chance to check the video out, please, I encourage you to go ahead and check it out. And if you can, tell a friend. Share it with your friends online at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the good places where people are. Now, the topic of this video, the reason why it's labeled 1.5, episode 1.5, is because this is more of a lessons learned, a catalog of all the things that I've learned from that first episode. And so I'm going to share those things with you, and in hopes that maybe I can change the show just in little tiny tweaks and do some course corrections so that we have a really good show that is not only informational and helpful to you guys as the viewers, but also things that will really help to streamline the process of and also help to encourage you and get you more knowledge so that you can go and build your own apps as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share some of those things. I wrote them down on my nice notepad that I shared in that video. I'm going to try to keep this as brief as possible. So the first thing that I realized is timing is everything. One thing that I really the hour that was leading up to the show was that it was on the same night as Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals. So everyone was glued to their TV screens here on the West Coast to watch Steph Curry play and defeat the Oklahoma Thunder. So that's one thing that I definitely learned is try to make it where half of the world isn't looking at this basketball game, and I can actually enjoy the basketball game too. So a very easy, simple thing to do. I just look at my calendar, look at what else is going on in the world. Something hopefully not major will be occurring, but we'll figure it out. Not really a big deal. The other thing that I figured is that lighting is everything. As you can see in the video, my light changed dramatically because it turned from daylight to nighttime pretty quickly. So at the bottom half of the video show, it actually had the light changing dramatically, and I was in the dark, which I didn't realize because I just wasn't looking at myself on the screen at the time. So that was one thing that I had to learn, and hopefully I'll have a better light than my current lighting system that I have right now in front of me. So that's something that I'm looking to change, but I don't want to overkill it yet. I'll leave the lighting kind of simplified right now. I do have some little clamp lights that I can see if that makes a big difference. I think it will. The other thing that I realize is that I shouldn't over-explain the process of coding. Although this is called Watch Curtis Code, the emphasis, the emphasis was to try to help people that have never coded before, never really built anything before, to build an app, to build something and produce something that the world will enjoy. And over explaining, the process of writing code, all of those things are things that we can talk about, but they don't need to be gone in a deep dive. And so I decided to kind of limit that to a degree. We'll still talk about it, much like a chef talks about how he slices a cucumber or things like that. But I won't make it the integral focus of what this video show is supposed to be about. On that same note, one other thing that I realized was that the focus of this show should be on building an app. It shouldn't be on just the coding aspect, although that is extremely important. And as a developer myself, I know the importance of having really great code that executes well. So, but once again, this show is for people that have never done it before. They've never built a company, they've never built a startup, an app, a website, any of those things. I want to focus on what the process to build things rather than the specific how to do so. Because everyone, there's this term, your mileage, and that all depends on what you can put together to build your product. But what the focus of this show is going to be is how to actually build something from conception, which is noting it down in your trusty notebook and sketching things out and finding a developer and different things like this, and finding a designer if you're not a designer, finding a developer if you're not a developer, finding a marketing person if you're not a marketing person. All of these things that I've accumulated and learned by having my own startup, and also launching products for big brands. So these are the things that I want to focus on, and the coding aspect is still very important. So all you hardcore devs, please don't abandon it quite yet. We'll play it by ear, see how things go, and see what's most beneficial, and that's all based on the comments that you all make, the things that you all say to me in the chat. If there's things that you want a further explanation on, you can always email me. I'm at curtispope@yahoo.com, and I'm always glad to answer any questions. Um, so one of the things that another additional thing that I realized is that especially when my code failed in the end, that wasn't because there were errors in the code or anything like that. I had actually coded the exact same thing prior to the actual video. So I knew that it worked. In fact, I was overly confident because I didn't realize that my streaming software was actually going to be interfering with how my app compiled and the memory that it takes to run a virtual iOS simulator. So I was able to get it running after I ended the stream because there was some interference there. But I don't anticipate that that's going to be a problem anymore, because what I plan to do is a method that they actually use on cooking shows, which is they pre-bake. They cook the actual dish that they're executing live on the air. They cook it previously and then just pop it out of the oven and show you the final product. If they didn't do this, cooking shows would normally be about an hour long, and a lot of the cooking and the preparation, the preparation and things like that. They try to sum it up and give you the gist. And it's just not an efficient um, use of time. So I'll be trying to refer to using methods like that so that I can have the app fully realized and done before I start my stream. That way you folks can see exactly how the app works and functions. One of the one more, two more points here is more building anticipation. When I did this podcast, it was so on the fly to where I didn't want momentum to stop me by thinking about, oh, I have to do an Instagram 15-second or 60-second thing. I'd have to do a Twitter thing where the link is perfectly formatted. I have to do a Facebook thing where I have an image in the deal. I didn't want to think about all these things, so it was almost like pure momentum to get the word out about though. I'm going to just call it a podcast because that's what I think it is. I really just created the link, sent it on my Facebook to a few groups and a few folks that I knew that really wanted to see this process. And I had a good turnout, but you can always use more people. So tell a friend and whatnot. But I can do a better job at actually building that momentum, building the anticipation for the audience, because without you guys, I couldn't do this show really. And without your support in figuring out whether there's an audience for this sort of thing, I can't really make the. That's one thing that I can work on as well. Now, my final note on the show is a little comment I just kind of thought of before this video, is more Bob Ross. Now, Bob Ross is essentially, in my mind, he's the most simplistic and also one of the few painters out there that can actually simplify his process in 30 minutes or less, to where the audience can grasp the main points of what he's doing without having to do a lot of research beforehand or more thinking the fact of it. They can just rewatch his and get his process down, because he breaks it down in such simple steps that anyone can follow along. So my goal is to employ a lot of those same way that I do the instruction for these talks, these podcasts, because I think that that is really the true source of teaching, when you can break things down to a simple nature and have your audience really follow along, or have your students really follow along. So I look to employ those things, and I really appreciate any comments that you guys have. Please feel free to leave comments down there, negative or constructive. Either way, I look at all of them, and I'm looking for more collaboration, more help to make this a better show. And I thank you guys so much for your for your momentum, for you telling friends, for all these things that made the first show a success. So I look forward to many other shows. The second episode is going to air this Monday, June, June something. So it's the first Monday in June, essentially. So I'm going to try to do these every single Monday, and I'm going to try to do when I have something to go on or something to do on those Mondays. I'll pre-record, and it will be up that day. So that is it, and thank you guys. And once again, tell a friend, tell all your friends about this show. Tell them that if they want to get in on the ground level and they want to know how to build an app, how to build a company, all of these things are going to be covered in this series. So please tell a friend. Thank you. And once again, my name is Curtis Pope, and you're watching Watch Curtis Code.